This is my disclosure. Nothing related with my talk today. When the rectal tumor is located above the peritoneal flexion, so it basically spread solely within the mesorectum. So chemoradiotherapy and the TME completely eradicate the pelvic tumor. But when the tumor is located below the peritoneal flexion, it starts spreading to the lateral area. So the one important message is the indication the tumor below the peritoneal flexion is indicated for lateral node dissection, not for the tumors above the peritoneal flexion. And according to the Japanese data, this is actually from the 90s, so they treated all with upfront surgery, but still, when the patient had positive lateral lymph node metastasis, still they achieved 50 to 60% overall survival only with the surgery alone, even before the era of modern chemotherapy. This is why this disease is thought to be regional rather than a systemic disease. According to the multiple studies, there are 15 to 20% incidence of lateral lymph node metastasis in T3, T4 rectal cancer below the peritoneal flexion. And now the lateral node is a major cause of local recurrence in the era of chemoradiotherapy plus TME in low rectal cancer. We conducted a multi-center international study involving 12 centers from 7 countries and looked at the outcome in patients with T3, T4 rectal cancer below the peritoneal flexion involving 1,200 patients and classified all the lateral lymph nodes according to the size and the location in the lateral area. The first important outcome was that when we looked at the patient treated with chemoradiotherapy plus TME alone without lateral node dissection, if the patient has baseline 7 millimeter or larger lateral lymph node, there are quite a significant lateral recurrence of 20% or higher. And another important outcome was there was no increase in distant mets or cancer-specific survival, regardless of the size of the lateral area. This is another finding that support lateral lymph node metastasis is not a systemic disease, but a regional disease. And next, when we look at the outcome in the patient with a baseline enlarged lateral lymph node of 7 millimeter or larger and compare the outcome with and without lateral lymph node dissection, in patient treated with TME alone, there was a 25% local recurrence, and the majority of them occurred in the lateral area, while when the patient who received the lateral node dissection had only less than 6% local recurrence. So this is the first data set that support possible oncological benefit of lateral node dissection adding to chemoradiotherapy when the patient has a baseline lateral lymph node. But now it's in the era of TNT, so the question is if TNT eradicate the lateral lymph node disease. According to the data from MD Anderson, the residual lateral lymph node metastasis occurs in 20% of the patient who had the baseline enlarged lateral node. And actually this proportion is not really reduced from the era of chemoradiotherapy. And another important oncologic outcome is that they were nicely treated with a selective lateral lymph node dissection, adding to TNT. So what does enlarged lateral node mean to us? It's a regional disease, not a systemic disease, curable by surgical dissection. And the lateral node disease is a major cause of local recurrence in T3, T4 mid-low rectal cancer below the peritoneal flexion. And the 7 millimeter on baseline MRI seems like a good indication, and this is recommended by the international consensus organized by radiologists, radiation oncologists, and the surgeons and medical oncologists. And the surgery alone or chemoradiotherapy alone cannot fully control the disease. The key is the combination of radiotherapy plus lateral node dissection, which improves the outcome, mainly reducing the local recurrence. So let's move on to the surgical technique. So first important message is some colorectal surgeon may think that we can just call the GYN or urology people to do this dissection, so we don't have to learn it. That is not true. When we look at the anatomical distribution of lateral lymph node metastasis from rectal cancer, the metastasis occurs in the very deep pelvis, like a distal interiliac area or obturator area, which is very different from urology or GYN cancer, mainly distributing in a shallower area. So when we call urology or GYN surgeon, it is okay, but you need to be careful about not leaving this distant part. And actually, according to the data from Tokyo, 44% of lateral lymph node metastasis actually occurs at the very deep bottom part of this lateral compartment. And this area actually achieved even better oncologic outcome by complete resection compared to the more proximal lymph nodes. So this bottom part seems to be a kind of sentinel lymph node in the lateral area, highly cured. I will show you one example. This patient has a typical deep pelvic lateral lymph node metastasis. So in the lateral lymph node dissection seems to be performed very nicely, but when we look at the very deep bottom, there's a huge tumor stuck to the inferior vesical vessel. So the node is left behind. So required additional resection with a combined resection of the inferior vesical vessels. So always important to check the specimen. If you don't find a metastatic lymph node, you need to look into the residual lymph node in the distal compartment. So move on to the anatomy. When we show this anatomy, always, most of the surgeons feel like reluctant to learn this one. But just, simplify with the layers. That is a key to understand this anatomy. The first, this is the right side, okay? So first plane is the lateral plane composed by pelvic muscles, which are psoas muscle and obturator internus muscle. The medial plane, second plane, is a pelvic plexus followed by urinary bladder. So basically ureter, autonomic nerve, and the bladder. And the third plane is the posterior plane made by internal iliac vessels and sciatic nerve. And there's a big artery, which is an internal iliac artery, with two vesical branches, which are superior vesical branches with umbilical artery and inferior vesical artery running in the midst of this area. And basically, this line made by, which is called the vesical hypogastric fascia. A vesicle is a bladder. Hypogastric is actually an old name of internal iliac artery. So vesical hypogastric means bladder to internal iliac artery fascia. So basically, this plane is quite a nice embryonic vascular plane. And medial to this layer is internal iliac area, and the lateral to this plane is the obturator area. So we should carefully look at the MRI before surgery and carefully evaluate where is the metastatic lymph node to design the surgical procedure. Just because in the era of TNT, recently more and more patients have quite a severe fibrosis because of a longer interval from radiation to surgery. So many lymph nodes actually stuck to these vesical structures. So, and the lymph nodes are often located in the distal internal iliac area. So many of the cases, inferior vesical arteries are involved. So often you will need to think about possible combined resection of the internal iliac artery or vesical branches. I will show you one video. This is a big obturator lymph node involving multiple vessels. So we performed left side lateral node dissection with a combined resection of internal iliac artery and vesical branches after TNT. So the first step is isolating the ureter, followed by autonomic nerve. There's an embryonic plane, and then dissection move on to the lateral plane, which is pelvic planes. So basically, psoas muscle followed by obturator internus muscle. Then now you identify the obturator nerve and the vessels running into the obturator foramen. Now the obturator vessels are ligated, and the dissection further move on to the pelvic bottom to reach to the tendinous arch, which is the attachment of the levator to the obturator internus muscle. This is a pelvic bottom. When you further insert, you can easily communicate with the TME space. This is also important for drainage of the discharge after surgery, so I'll always make it a routine to make a hole here. And now dissection move on to identifying the internal iliac artery and umbilical artery. And then each branches are identified, which are internal pudendal artery, the main trunk, and superior gluteal artery. And in this patient, I did a combined resection of umbilical artery and internal pudendal artery, these two main branches. preserving the superior gluteal artery. Then dissection follows on the surface of the posterior plane, which are sciatic nerve, and in this case, after resection of the internal iliac artery, inferior internal iliac vein is the layer to go. And this is like the D3 lymph node dissection in the right colon cancer. Basically, follow the surface of the vein is the safest to not to have any minor venous bleeding from the vein. And then now we encounter the internal pudendal artery distal part running into the Alcock's canal. Then dissection finally move on to the vesical hypogastric fracture, which is the boundary between the bladder and the obturator lymph node. There's multiple vesical vessels running into the bladder, but if you follow the layer, you can easily identify the entry point of the vesical arteries into the bladder. And these are nicely cauterized by bipolar forceps of the robot. And now the specimen was retrieved in an unblocked fashion without exposure of the cancer tissue using these 3 planes. And this is the final view. All the structures, outside structures are exposed. And the nerves are completely preserved. That is the key to preserve the urinary function. This is a specimen, negative margin. And according to our data from MD Anderson, as well as the Japanese data, the possible grade 3 complication occurs in 10% of the patient after the learning curve. And importantly, in the US with the obese patient, there's no increased amount of the comorbidities. And there are multiple international collaborations ongoing, including a training course. So if you are interested, please participate for these activities. Thank you for your attention.